Cain is a lonely virgin loser who gets stabbed to death while saving two baddies. However, when the gods learn of his heroic sacrifice, they reincarnate him into a world of magic, granting him overpowered abilities so he can smash demons and shawties every day. It all starts when Cain is heading to the store and runs into P. Diddy, who's chasing after two girls to steal their V-card. Cain heroically pins the guy down to let the girls escape, but the guy stabs him in the heart and runs off. As the girls run to check up on him, he is relieved they are fine, but he feels bad for making them cry. After that, Cain bleeds to his death, but then, he wakes up inside a fancy room and wonders if he is still alive. He looks in the mirror to find himself in the body of a completely different person, which makes him panic. He soon realizes that he is reincarnated into a different world, so he decides to check if his sausage has gained a few extra inches, but sadly, he's still lacking. Later, he meets his new family and learns that he is the son of a noble commander named Garm. At night, his maid Sylvia teaches him about the world, and when he learns that this world and monsters and magic, he gets excited to explore the world. Later, he tells his father that he wants to study magic, only to learn that he must wait to be baptized before he can use spells. Afterward, he returns to his room and is surprised to find that he can already use magic, but he decides to keep it from his family and practice in secret. A few years later, Cain is finally ready to be baptized and heads to the cathedral with his family. On the way, his parents explain that each person is granted magic and protection from levels 1 to 5, and a higher number means more magic. Soon after, Cain arrives at the cathedral and steps in front of giant intimidating statues of the gods that rule this world. Then, the bishop begins his baptism, and his soul teleports to the divine realm where 7 gods of the world greet him. They tell him that his sacrifice in his previous life has impressed them, so they decided to reincarnate him and grant him a handsome reward. Cain graciously accepts it, but as he departs the realm, he sees the god of creating giggling, which makes him anxious. After his soul returns, his family asks him what happened, but he runs out of the cathedral and opens his stats window to see that he's got max protection from all 7 gods along with several of you-powered bylights. However, since his dad told him that one can have a max of 5 protections, he starts to panic and wonders how he can hide it from the others. That's when he learns that he has an ability called Status Conceal, which he can use to alter his stats. When they return home, his father asks to see his stats. He confidently pulls up his status window, only to realize that he's an idiot because he forgot to conceal stats. His family is in utter shock when they see his overpowered magic, and his dad sternly tells him to never show his stats to anyone, or he'll be seen as a threat by the kingdom. Later, Cain returns to his room and finds a summoning book on his bed, so he wonders if he can summon fluffy magical beings to play with. He goes outside and forms a magic circle, only to summon a super strong monster. The monster immediately attacks his sister Riani and her friend Parma, but Cain jumps in front to fight the monster. After some struggle, he manages to defeat the monster, but as he comes crashing down, he hears Parma and Riani crying. He thinks he's going to die again, but he realizes that his body isn't hurt at all, and this makes Rain and Parma really happy. Seeing their smiles, he realizes that, unlike before, he now has the power to protect others. So the next day, at his birthday party, he declares that he will become an adventurer and help people in need. That afternoon, Garm supports his decision and agrees to hire a tutor for him, which makes him really excited. Later, he sees 2 girls coming into the manor, so he jumps out of the window in excitement and lands directly into their milk factory, much to his embarrassment. Once inside, he learns that these girls are his tutors, and the redhead is an anxious adventurer named Millie, and the other is a chill elf baddie named Nina. After the introductions, they take Cain to the practice arena where they teach him how to swing a sword. Surprisingly, Cain is already really good at it, and Nina notes that he might already be better than Millie. Determined to prove that she's better than him, Millie challenges him to a mock battle and tells him to go all out. During the battle, he easily overwhelms Millie, which shocks Nina, who asks if he has the protection of the god of war. After he confirms it, Millie ends their duel and tells Nina to teach him magic because he's already a sword master. Nina then reveals she has level 3 protection from the god of magic, and she will teach him the basics, but he tells her he's already covered those by reading books. He then demonstrates fire, water, and earth-type magic spells, claiming that he's still a beginner. However, Nina believes Bro came from the Avatar anime because even the strongest sages of the palace can't use all elements of magic. She then asks if he has protection from the god of magic too, and after he confirms it, the girls realize that they might not be able to teach him anything. Just then, he pulls out a towel for them from his item box, and the girls finally lose it, because only the most elite mages can use this spell. When they tell her they can't teach him here, Cain asks them to take him outside because he's only ever left the mansion for his baptism. Later, the girls take this matter to Garm, telling him that Cain has far surpassed the beginner level in both magic and sword, and he might destroy the mansion if they give him intermediate training. Garm agrees to let him train outside, but he sternly tells the girls to bring him back before sundown. With that, Cain happily steps into the open world where Nina asks him to use his intermediate magic on a boulder. To their shock, the guy ends up destroying the boulder completely, and they're even more impressed that he's still not tired after using such a strong spell. Just then, the girls sense something in the woods, and it turns out to be a deadly rabbit that eats people. The rabbit goes around them and immediately attacks Cain, but he uses a skill called Air Bullet to defeat it instantly. The girls congratulate him on his first score, and Cain puts the rabbit in his item box so he can flex on his parents later. Seeing this, Millie says she's saving money for a magic bag, which is the same as an item box, but it costs a fortune. She then suggests they hunt some more and asks Nina to use a search spell. She uses it to spot a few enemies nearby, and this piques Cian's curiosity. After she explains how she uses this spell, Cain tries it too, and manages to ace it on the first cast, much to Nina's shock. Cain then runs after the deadly bunnies, and the girls help him take them down. However, as one of the bunnies retreats into the forest, they stop Cain from going in and tell him that the forest houses the most dangerous monsters. They further reveal that these monsters attack the city once every few years, and the city has created thick and giant walls to stop these monsters from hurting people. They motivate him to become a strong adventurer so he can protect the city in such cases, giving Cain something to look forward to. That night, he returns to the manor and is shocked to learn that he's become level 8 just by slaying a few bunnies. He then sees that he has a skill that multiplies his experience gain by 100 and realizes that the gods pulled a prank on him by making him stronger than Gojo Satoru. He worries that he will be put on the chopping block if people find out about his powers, and he won't be able to live like a normal adventurer. The next day, Millie and Nina take him to the guild, saying that he's strong enough to face bigger monsters. As he excitedly walks in, he is mesmerized by the receptionist, Rudy, who is half human, half dog. Millie asks Rudy if there's anything stronger than deadly rabbits in the area, and Rudy checks her notes to see mentions of wolves in the area. Just then, one ruffian named Cross sees the girls with Cian and mocks them for taking babysitting quests, since they're too weak to take anything else. He then asks Millie if she wants to babysit his junior too, but when Nina shoos him off, he gets offended and tries to diddle her. His lackeys also restrain Millie, but Cain casually grabs Cross's hand and tells him to let the girls go. When Cross refuses, he proceeds to beat the living bejesus out of him and makes him lose all his aura. Now embarrassed, Cross tries to flatline Cain, but the little brat keeps up with his violent swings and parries with his finger before throwing Cross out of the guild. He beats up Cross's underling too, and Nina thanks him for saving them with an embrace. After that, they head to the forest where Cain impresses them again by casting extremely powerful elemental spells. 3 years later, it's the last day of his tutoring, and he wonders if he can repay them somehow, only to recall that Millie once said she was saving for a magic bag. That night, he returns to the forest alone to gather crafting materials for the bag, and despite coming across monsters 10 times his size, he defeats them all with ease. However, he causes such huge explosions that the town guard thinks the monsters have raided and signals the alarm. Within seconds, Garm takes hundreds of knights into the forest, but before he can reach, Cain teleports out of there. Once Garm reaches the forest, he sees a handkerchief with his family crest and freaks out as he realizes it was his own son. Hours later, Cain is defeating dozens of wolves on his own, while Millie and Nina watch in awe at how much he's grown. After he's done, the girls congratulate him on graduating, and Cain thanks them by giving them 2 magic boxes, each corresponding to the color of their hair. He then reveals he's slayed a blood ogre and an earth dragon for crafting materials, and the girls are shocked because not even full A-rank parties can beat those monsters alone. He then says that these bags can barely hold a mansion, only for Millie to say that even the highest level bags can only hold a carriage's worth of goods. After that, they both give him a peck on the cheek, which catches him off guard. They tell him to reach out to him if he ever needs help before heading off, and it leaves Cain a little sad. Later, Cain is fighting a giant dragon all by himself, but he attacks it too hard and ends up defeating it. Afterward, he checks his stats and realizes that his magic has gone over 80 million, which makes him freak out. On top of that, he gains 2 new aliases, called the Enemy of Monsters and Dragon Slayer, which makes it even harder for him to hide his powers. 2 years later, Cain is on his way to the royal capital along with his family to make his debut, and since the destination is a week away, he decides to keep an eye out for monsters. Immediately, he casts his search spell and locates a battle going on ahead between monsters and humans. Hearing this, Garm tells his guards to speed up and help the humans, but Cain worries they won't make it in time. He then jumps out of the carriage and uses wind magic to propel himself forward with super speed, leaving Garm in shock. Within seconds, he makes it to the battle zone and defeats the giant monsters all by himself, leaving only the Alpha alive. For that one, Cain pulls out his sword and uses it, combined with fire magic, to turn it into a barbecue buffet. Afterward, he checks up on the knights who are still on guard and order him not to come closer. So Cain introduces himself as Noble Garm's son to make them ease up. Just then, Garm's knights show up too, and they are shocked to see that all the monsters are already dead. As the carriage guards collapse due to injuries, Cain rushes to their side and casts a healing spell in the whole arena, which makes all the guards recover. He then uses his item box to yoink the guards who are already dead so he can give them a burial later. Soon after, his father catches up too, and after seeing all the monsters dead, he recognizes the crest on the carriage. Immediately, two cuties step out of the carriage, and Garm introduces them as Princess Telestia and the Duke's daughter Silk. As the girls thank them for saving their lives, Telestia begins to feel weak, and Cain asks for her permission to use magic that will calm her mind. After she agrees, he casts a spell that makes them feel at ease, and they immediately start to simp for Cain. However, this leads to a small fight between the girls over who gets to call dibs on Cain's micro-sausage, and they both pull him towards them. Silk asks him why he's here, and he says he's heading to the capital for his debut. Telestia says they're heading there too for the same reason, and asks him to travel with them. They proceed to drag him into their carriage, and Garm watches in shock, wondering how his son can pull shotties with that hideous face. Soon after, Cain finds himself pinned between the girls, but when he suggests sitting on the other side, Telestia holds his hands and tells him to stay here because she's still scared. She then looks at him like she wants it and asks him to call her Teles, but he says he can't call her by name since she's a princess. Hearing this, Silk also tells him to call her by her name, and they keep teasing him until a guard tells him they're approaching the town of Renoma. Hearing this, the girls ask Cain if he'd like to rest with them, which makes him worry for his mini-soldier. Once they reach down, Garm shows up and asks Cain to accompany him, but the girls insist that he stay with them for the night because only he can protect them. In the end, Garm has no choice but to do what the princess wants, so he tells Cain to keep his willy tucked because it's not built for royalty. Later in the room, the girls insist on sleeping close to Cain, so they push their beds next to him and pinch him in the middle. He anxiously suggests that they keep their distance, but this only backfires as both Teles and Silk scoot even closer to him. A few days later, they finally reach the royal capital, and when they step out of the carriage, Cain goes into panic because the girls start cuddling him up. The knight captain sees this and asks who he is, and the girls reveal he's the boy who saved their lives. After that, the captain introduces himself as Dame and sincerely thanks Cain for protecting Teles and Silk, as well as bringing the fallen knights home. Later, as Cain helps in the burial preparations, he tells Dame that these men fought valiantly, and Dame promises to honor their memory with the other knights. After that, Cain decides to leave, only for Dime to reveal that the king wants to see him. Soon after, he finds himself in the throne room filled with hundreds of nobles, where the king's advisor tells everyone about Cain's heroic deeds. Hearing this, the king personally praises him and casually grants him the title of a baron, along with a mansion and 10 platinum coins. Just then, a fatso noble named Corgino steps out and opposes the king's decision, but the king tells him to shut it because the only thing he can defeat is the weight machine. After that, the king dismisses the meeting and asks Cain to meet him in the parlor, where he's joined by Garm, who praises him for accomplishing so much so soon. Soon after, the king arrives with the girls and personally thanks Cain, and Silk's father, the Duke Eric, also bows his head to him. After the pleasantries, the king assigns him a regular baron's pay and then asks him if he'd like to take his daughter's V-card. Eric asks him to marry Silk at the same time, and while the girls are happy to share that mini sausage, Cain panics as his soldier ain't big enough for the two of them. Seeing this, they remind him that he not only shared a wagon with them but also shared a bed, and Cain is forced to agree to a three-way. Later, he has another meeting with the gods to discuss his high magic numbers, and the gods admit that he might just be stronger than Sakuna. They even asked him if he wanted to become a demigod, explaining that demigods are in the same class as holy beasts and divine dragons. He also warns Cain that there's only so much he can do alone, and he shouldn't test his limits. Following that, he added that there isn't much to do in the endgame, so he advises Cain to create something from his previous life for entertainment. Later, Cain goes shopping with his mom and sister, but it quickly gets awkward for him, and he runs to the street. Outside, He runs into Parma and asks why she's here. So she tells him she's training at her uncle's shop. Just then, his uncle Tom Annis shows up, and when Parma tells him Kane is a noble, Tom Annis anxiously apologizes for being so casual around him. Kane tells him to relax and says he wants to see his shop, so they take him inside, and he tells them that he wants them to create a new item. After Tamanus agrees to make it, Kane pitches him the idea of a board game, and Tamanus happily accepts the job. Kane then slides him a gold coin for his troubles, but Tom Annis anxiously tells him that it's too much. After Kane tells him to keep it as an investment, Tom Annis graciously accepts it and promises to do his best on this project. With that, Kane happily leaves the shop only to recall that he left Rene abruptly, and now she's mad. She says she wanted him to see her in the clothes she tried on, but he says he knows she looks cute no matter what she is wearing. Hearing this makes her heart warm, and she promises to show him all of her dresses at home. That night, she puts on all kinds of dresses and giggles in joy, as Kane compliments all of them. Later, Sophie tells him that Tom Annis has asked him to come to his shop, and he immediately goes there to see that he's already finished the product. Kane happily tells him it looks exactly like he imagined, and suggests they play test it with a friendly game. He plays his first match with Parma to teach them how OT play it, and Tom Annis immediately gets hooked on it. He is certain it will sell like hotcakes, so Kane asks him to mass produce it but make separate and more fancier boards for nobles. He believes nobles will want something that costs more and stands out, while commoners would want to buy the one that's simple and costs less. He tells him to make 50 fancy ones and 1,000 regular ones, but when Tom Annis says he doesn't have the funds to produce this much, Kane drops several gold coins on the table and tells him to get to work. With that, Tom Annis suggests they draw a contract and present it to the god of commerce, and if they vow to uphold the contract in front of the god, no one else will be able to produce the same product for 3 years. Kane agrees to do it, and after the contract is formed, Kane asks Tom Annis to create a super fancy board for the royal household. Tom Annis believes he can't produce something worthy of the royals, but Kane assures him he's got this covered. Afterward, he heads to the royal palace for his debut ceremony, where he sees Corgino, the same fatso who opposed his baronhood. Ignoring his fat cakes, Kane spots Eric and Silk and goes over to say hi, only for Eric to pass him the smirk because he wants him to crack his daughter. Silk then formally introduces herself to Kane and says she wishes for them to have a favorable relationship. Seeing her looking so fine, Kane tells her she looks lovely and could be mistaken for a princess, leading to a heartfelt moment between them. However, Eric snaps them back to reality and notes that Kane is already a Rizzler, which makes Garm laugh. Kane realizes that he is used to giving free compliments to Rainey, and he can't stop himself from doing the same with Silk. Just then, the king shows up with his wife and Tellus, thanking everyone for joining him before raising a toast to all those who are debuting today. Soon after, Kane and his family bow to the king. Kane compliments Tellus by telling her that she looks nothing short of a goddess, which makes her sprinkler go off. Kane then reveals that he has brought a gift for them and asks for the king's permission to pull it out of his item box. After he's granted permission, he pulls out the fancy board game named Reversi that he designed with Tom Annis, which piques their curiosity. The king then invites him to the parlor after the ceremony, and as they step away, Garm praises Kane for already thinking of ways to make money. Afterward, his parents leave him to socialize, and Silk seizes the opportunity to spend time with him. While they're talking, some ugly-looking noble boys show up and try to rizz up Silk, but she gives them cold treatment. When Kane introduces himself, the boys start to misbehave with him, and Kane immediately realizes that one of them, named Habit, is Corgino's son because he looks just as ugly as him. Habit demands that Kane apologize for talking without permission, but before Silk can tell them to scram, Kane tells Habit to apologize for making Silk upset. Hearing this, Habit says, "Catch me outside, how about that?" And they head to the courtyard, where Silk acts worried for Kane and uses this chance to cuddle up to him. Meanwhile, the bullies get jealous and try to attack Kane, but their attacks are weaker than your game with women. Now annoyed, Silk reveals to the brats that they're dealing with the newly appointed Baron, and this makes them wet their pants. She further reveals that Kane alone defeated an army of orcs earlier, and the boys get too scared that they bow to beg for mercy. After they leave, Silk starts teasing Kane for purposely keeping those boys in the dark and says she will tell Tellus about his dark side. When he begs her not to, she tells him to go on a date with her if he wants her to stay shut. Just then, Tellus comes running in and asks what they are talking about, but Kane quickly places his hand on Silk's mouth. Tellus gets shy seeing him get all freaky with Silk and demands to know what happened between them. Silk playfully tells her that she and Kane were planning their date, which makes her jealous as she says she wants a date with him too. Seeing this, Kane agrees to go on a date with both of them. only to see that the king is standing next to him and giving him a bombastic side-eye for being so forward with the girls. He then invites Cain to the parlor, where the king's advisor hands him the map and the key to his mansion. He informs Cain that the king had an important meeting, which he wanted to skip to meet him, and he had to talk him out of it. Cain is relieved because he can go home early today, only for Eric to pop in and challenge him to a game of reversey. Seeing this, many other nobles show up to play with him as well, which makes him freak out. Later, Cain follows the map to locate his new mansion, only to see that it's more run down than Bonnie Blue. Stepping inside, he sees that the power is out and uses light magic to see better. He also notes that all the furniture is broken, and the whole mansion is quite dirty. Cain then uses a spell to clean and repair everything, turning the place into a fancy mansion within seconds. As he excitedly checks out his bedroom, Sylvia arrives with some helpers and says she's eager to serve him. His new butler, Colin, also introduces himself, and it turns out that he's already a fan because he already knows about Cain's heroic deeds. With that, Sylvia asks the girls to clean the place up, but they notice that everything is already shining, and Cain says he already cleaned it with magic. Hearing this, Sylvia leaves to tend to other things, and Colin suggests he return to his father's mansion because his older stepbrothers will return today. Later at home, his brothers learn that he's now the owner of a mansion, but when Ryan wishes to see it, they tell her it's run down and might have a ghost there to scare her. However, when Cain takes them there, they are shocked to see that it looks brand new, and Garm immediately figures that Cain repaired it with magic. As they explore the place, Garm notes that it lacks artworks and decorations, but Cain says he has already ordered some decorations. Just then, they hear Sylvia scream and rush outside to see a giant mounted red dragon, which Cain ordered as decoration. Garm anxiously asks how he got his hands on this, and Cain reluctantly admits he defeated this dragon himself and turned it into a decorative piece. Garm is mind-blown because even A-rank adventurers can't beat a monster this strong, and advises Cain not to show off his powers so casually. He adds that a mounted red dragon is worth a fortune, which automatically makes him a billionaire. Just then, they hear another scream and rush to see Sarah and Reen gushing over a toilet that shoots water directly into their kitties. When Garm scolds them for being dramatic, Sarah asks him to try it as well, and he comes out with the realization that he likes it in the cakes. Garm then tells him that he will have to hold another debut party for the nobles, which makes him freak out. Later, Colin tells him he has already made a guest list for him, and Cain checks it to see that Fat Corgino is also there. Colin says he has to invite him no matter what, and when Cain asks why the king isn't invited, he learns that only counts or higher ranks can invite royalty. Cain then starts to worry over the gifts, but Sylvia suggests he grants them his own brand of hospitality. Later, he creates unique and fancy glasses for the nobles and also creates a recipe for his own wine with Hamburg steak. He makes Sylvia test the steak, and she finally realizes why people like juicy meat in their mouths. When she tests the drink, her own sprinkler goes wild, and she likes it so much that she chugs down several bottles and gets high. Just then, he is summoned to the royal palace, where he gets cold stares from the king and Duke Eric. The king then asks why he hasn't invited him to his debut party, angrily reminding him that he's the one who gifted him that mansion in the first place. Eric teases the king by flailing his invitation in the king's face, reminding him that Cain is not high-ranked enough to invite him yet. Seeing this, Cain says he wanted to invite him in person, but didn't get the opportunity to before pulling out an invitation letter from his coat. The king beams up at this, and Cain is glad he prepared an invitation at the last minute for the old man. Later, he tells his maids that the king is coming, which makes them all freak out, and he adds to their shock by telling them that Tellus is his fiancée. At night, the nobles start coming in one after the other, and Cain stands at the door to welcome them. Soon after, Silk shows up looking like a cutie, and Cain personally shows them inside and shocks them with his mounted red dragon. After that, he asks the guests to try the wine, and the whole room bursts into excitement. Just then, the king arrives with Tellus and is immediately captured by the beauty of the custom-made glasses. He then tries the wine and gets hyped, only for Cain to pass him the steak and make his mind blow. Just then, the queen joins them and excitedly tells the king about Cain's water-shooting toilet. The king uses it and orders Cain to install these in his castle tomorrow, before declaring that Cain has shown him ultimate hospitality. Hearing this, all the nobles praise Cain, but the moment is ruined when the fatso Corgino shows up at his mansion. He immediately mocks Cain for having a small mansion and goes inside, only to wet himself upon seeing his mounted red dragon. He then walks into the main hall while spewing hate on Cain, but all the nobles take note of this and call him a vile degenerate. As he gets seated, Sylvia pours him the wine, and even when he loves it, he calls it mid. Cain then passes him Hamburg steak, but the fat idiot keeps up his vile attitude, which pisses Cain off. However, Colin advises him to stay calm, so Cain decides to rage bait him by offering more wine and glasses. Corgino tells him to gift him all the glasses and the wine recipe, but Cain politely says he already promised to distribute these glasses to all the nobles. However, Corgino continues to act greedily until the king shows up and scolds him for acting so badly, prompting him to scurry away like a rat. Seeing this, Silk approaches him and calls him a trickster for setting it all up, and while Cain proudly admits to it, he sees the king standing behind him. The king scolds him too for playing tricks, which makes Silk and Eric burst out laughing. The next day, Cain runs into the vice captain Dame and informs him that he's come here to drop off some monster materials. Hearing this, Dame takes him to the weapons storage room and asks him to drop off his loot, but Cain tells him this room isn't big enough. Dame goes in shock, thinking Cain brought another mounted red dragon, but Cain casually says he brought an earth dragon instead. Dame shockingly admits that not even A-rank parties can take one out, and then asks him to drop it off in the main yard. Cain proceeds to dump a dozen earth dragons, and surprises him even more, while also acting like it's an average Tuesday for him. Dame asks him if he's either a hero or a disciple of the gods, but Cain quickly explains that he's just a normal boy. Dame decides to let it go and asks for some time to appraise the dragons, but when Cain decides to leave, he stops the brat and asks him to help out with the knight's training, adding that he wants Cain to meet their captain. As Cain reluctantly agrees, Dime introduces him to the knights and asks them to fight Cain, but the knights hesitate, thinking that he's just a boy. Dime then amusingly asks the knights to go one-on-one against Cain, and Cain proceeds to aura farm and shock everyone. At this, Dame puts him in a battle royale, but before he can wipe the entire lobby, a green-haired baddie drops into the yard and scolds Dame for scaring a little boy. She then embraces Dime, thinking he's scared, but when Dime tells her this is the boy who annihilated 30 orcs to save the princess, she gets excited and asks Cain to annihilate her kitty as well. Dime suggests she introduce herself first, but she says she'll let her sword do the talking and starts swinging at Cain. He takes her seriously and gives her an equal challenge, but when he uses a spell to enhance his speed, the girl is unable to keep up and loses. Immediately, the woman is so impressed by this that she decides to let him crack it from the back, but Cain panics, saying he's too young and knows nothing about her. At this, she introduces herself as Captain Tifana, and tells him not to worry about being young because she's an elf and will live for at least 300 years. Now scared, Cain hides behind Dame and tries to dodge her, but she insists on marrying him and decides to meet the king directly to seek permission. Cain panics as he knows the king wants him to smash his daughter instead, but she drags him to the royal parlor where she announces her engagement to Cain. In shock, the king demands an explanation from Cain, and he shyly admits to defeating her in a mock battle, which led to this. The king then explains that Tifana comes from the Liebert territory, which was originally an elf nation. Because of their beauty, elf babbies are often dragged into wars by those who want to enslave them, but because of their first king's dying wish, their nation promises a haven to all elves. He further explains that Liebert is a sovereign nation under his protection, which means Tifana is a princess, and Cain has received a proposal from royalty. The king then tells Tifana that Cain is already engaged to his daughter Telas, as well as the duke's daughter Silk, which crushes her dreams of bouncing on his pogo stick. However, knowing that the boy has a line of shawties thirsting for Cain, this makes her want to marry him even more. The king chooses to acknowledge her feelings but tells her to write a letter to her dad first, to which she happily agrees. She then drags Cain with him, after which, the king asks Garm why his son is so overpowered. Garm says he has no idea, but Dame suspects Cain must be related to the gods in some way, which piques their curiosity. A few days later, Cain runs into Dame again, and when Dame notes that he looks exhausted, Cain tells him Tifana has been forcing him to train with her every day. Just then, he hears Tifana's voice and tries to run away, but Dime drags him away, saying the king wants to see him. Once in the parlor, the king asks his advisor Manga to show him a book that contains an emperor-level magic text. When Cain opens it, he gets super excited to find godly spells inside, only for the king to reveal that it was written by their first king, Yuya, and none of them can read it because it was written in Japanese. Now caught red-handed, the king asks him to come clean as to who he is, and Cain agrees to tell them if they promise to keep this information to themselves. Once they agree, he tells them he has memories from his previous life of a place called Japan, and that's where Yuya comes from. In shock, Garm asks him if he's truly his son, and Cain says he is because the gods told him so themselves. Everyone goes into panic as they learn that he met the gods, and when they see his stats, the king tells him that he's so strong that even the kings shall bow to him. Cain immediately tells them he doesn't want this, admitting that in his previous life, he had lost his family, but here, He has everything he wants and couldn't ask for more. Seeing his determination, the king agrees to treat him normally. But then he suggests that Cain should be king instead, much to everyone's disbelief. Just then, Tifana comes barging into the room and shows everyone that she got permission from her dad to marry Cain. She then drags him outside for another mock battle, and Eric asks the king not to worry about Cain because he's always going to be just Cain. The king agrees with this, and after commanding everyone to keep this info hidden, he leaves his chamber, wishing that Cain would use his powers to protect everyone. Later, Cain reads the book from the first king Yuya, who confirms that he came from Japan. He further reveals that he was involved in an accident and was summoned here with his original body, unlike Cain, who got reincarnated into a different person. Just then, Silk and Tellus ambush him, and seeing that he's studying something, they push him to study the Kama Sutra with them. However, Cain knows they're out for his sausage and tells them he's extremely busy today before running out of the library. Outside, he runs into Tifana, who eagerly asks him to practice his sword strokes on her kitty, but he tells her he's busy and runs away from her too. In reality, it's his birthday today, and he's finally old enough to register as an adventurer. As he excitedly steps into the guild, he bumps into a red-haired adventurer who welcomes him and advises him to value his life. As the man walks away, Cain suspects he's seen him before but can't remember well. After that, Cain heads to the reception where he's handed registration papers, and he decides not to write the Baron title with his name to keep a low profile. The receptionist, Rita, then asks him to place a drop of his blood on a crystal, saying it will automatically register his magic capacity on his guild card. After he receives his G-rank card, he recalls his instructors, Millie and Nina, were D-rank and wonders what they are up to now. Rita then welcomes him as an official member of the guild and tells him to value his life, but just then, a ruffian asks her to ditch the brat and hang out with him. The guy then tries to attack Cain, but after Cain humiliates him, the ruffian's lackeys show up to teach him a lesson. After he's done clowning on them, the ruffian gets pissed and tries to pull out his sword, only for the red-haired adventurer to intervene. The guy's name is Claude, and he tells the ruffian to fight someone of his size, causing the guy to run off. As Cain thanks him for the help, Claude says he was actually helping the ruffians because he could tell that Cain was super strong. He then invites Cain to have a drink with him, and he asks Cain how he's able to move so fast at this age. Cain humbly says he grew up having great teachers who were also adventurers, so Claude cheers to his success at the guild. Cain then says he heard the ruffian say Claude is with the Ice Flame, and Claude says it's the name of his party. He reveals that he uses a flame sword while his wife uses ice magic, so together they're Ice Flame. As Cain notes that he's in party with his wife, Claude tells him that he should also find a trustworthy partner as soon as he can so he can take on more difficult quests and level up faster. He then flexes his gold card in front of Cain, who gets excited to learn that he's an A rank. Claude says he's still a far cry from their first king, who was SSS rank, who had a black card, but he still believes gold looks cooler. Just then, someone bonks on his head, and it turns out to be his angry wife Lena, who has been looking for him. After Cain introduces himself, she tells him to look out for nasty folks around here and seek her out if he needs help. Claude tells her Cain is pretty strong and would have beaten up some ruffians if he hadn't intervened, but Lena tells him she'll beat him up if he doesn't come with her before dragging him away by the ear. After they leave, Cain looks for a G-rank job, but all he can find is simple cargo transport, which is too vanilla for him. He then spots a goblin-slaying job with no upper limit, so he chooses it as his first quest and happily runs out of the guild to complete it. Just then, he runs into Tifana, who embraces him and asks what he's up to. Cain tells her he registered as an adventurer and is going on his first quest, so Tifana decides to go with him. Dame reminds her that they have a training session, but she says spending time with her future husband is far more important than training. Cain tries to run away from her, but she stops him and drags him to the forest. There, she beams up as she's all alone with her future husband in a forest full of monsters and turns his first mission into a cringe fest. Cain then uses a search spell to locate some monsters and comes across a destroyed carriage. He also spots a person getting jumped by goblins and quickly intervenes before healing the said person. In the meantime, Tifana rushes the goblins down with her sword, but when more of them show up, Cain enhances her with magic, and she proceeds to play Fruit Ninja with the goblins. She then throws herself on Cain to seek his praise, but her moment is interrupted when a bunch of green lizards show up. Cain tells Tifana to grab the carriage owner and run, while he stays back to deal with the lizard problem. Afterward, he casts a powerful ice spell that wipes the lizards out. Sometime later, Millie and Nina arrive at the forest to hunt green lizards, but all they find is a crater where Cain used his spell. Meanwhile, Cain returns to the guild and informs Rita that he defeated the green lizards in the forest, and she is shocked because those monsters are for C-rank adventurers. She is relieved that he's okay, but when he says he defeated 30 of them, she gets shocked and quickly informs the guildmaster. However, the guildmaster is out right now, so Kane's case is handled by a cranky old man named Cedric. The man accuses Kane of lying, but Rita says it's wrong to accuse him without evidence. Cedric then says he looked at his registry, and he's just a commoner who's trying to make money overnight, so he gets pissed and decides to revoke Kane's guild card. Hearing this, Kane goes into panic because he's been looking forward to becoming an adventurer for years, and now he's fired on the first day. Just then, the guildmaster Eden returns, and as Cedric explains the situation to him, Tefana comes running in and openly calls Kane his dear husband. The Eden then tells Cedric that Kane is a baron who's already famous for having defeated 30 orcs, and if he marries Tefana, he will become his brother-in-law. Hearing all this makes Cedric regret his words, and he immediately gets on his knees to apologize. Afterward, Eden decides that G rank is not suitable for Kane, so he promotes him to C rank. However, Tefana tells them that Kane has already defeated a red dragon, and even bested her in a duel, so Eden promotes him to A rank. The gods see this and admit that giving him level 10 protection was a bit too much, but the god of creation says he needs Kane to be even stronger, because Aaron's seal has weakened, and he might return soon. At this, the other gods panic and decide to assign him a special instructor who can make Kane even stronger. That night, Kane gets his gold card from the guild and celebrates his promotion to A rank. The next day, Sylvia barges into Kane's room to tell him that he's late for his academy entrance exam. But Kane stays calm and quickly leaves. However, she follows him outside, crying over not waking him up sooner, and he stops to assure her that it's fine, as he still has time. He then turns a corner and teleports directly in front of the academy, making it in time with ease. Inside the academy, he gets his roll slip from the reception and then heads to his examination room. As he takes his seat, a frowny conductor arrives in the room and declares that cheaters will be kicked out before starting the exam. As Kane looks at the question paper, he smiles as he knows all the answers, so he finishes his exam in 30 minutes and uses the remaining time to rest. After the written test, the conductor reveals that they'll also be tested with their magic, which makes Kane panic. She takes the students to a practice arena, where they're tasked with destroying the targets with their strongest spells. Kane asks if he can go all out, and she tells him he can since there's a protective barrier around the area. With that, a few students demonstrate hit the target with basic level fire spell, and Kane realizes that he must bring himself to their level as well. When it's his turn to take the exam, he uses a basic fire bullet spell at max power, but it's so strong that it breaks the barrier, putting a hole in the wall and destroying everything that comes in its path. The examiner watches in shock and then rushes beyond the wall to make sure Kane's spell didn't cook anyone. Later, Kane and his class are brought in for sword training, only to learn that Claude and some other A-rank adventurers will be helping them train. When Claude spots Kane, he immediately asks him for a duel, but Kane says no because he wants to hide his powers. However, the examiner tells him that he can't refuse and must spar with Claude if he wants to pass. Claude then asks Kane to come at him with full strength, and Kane takes it seriously because Claude is a strong A-ranked adventurer. He uses a speed boost spell and charges Claude down, but Claude blocks his attack and is impressed by Kane's speed. He also takes Kane seriously and starts swinging at full speed, and they go so fast that the other students can't even see what's happening. Before things get too heated, the examiner stops them and scolds them for making the other students feel weak. At this, Claude decides to call it a draw, but he looks forward to going on high-level quests with Kane, which makes Kane nervous. The examiner then tells Kane to get the frick out of there because he's already traumatized the other students. Later, he returns to his mansion and is greeted by Sylvia, who asks him how his exam went. When he tells her he did well in all exams, she gets super happy and decides to throw a party. Kane tells her it's too soon, but his belly growls, and she becomes determined to stuff him with something nice. The next day, Kane gets an audience with the king, who demands to know why he blew up the training grounds. Kane explains that he was told a barrier would protect everyone, and he could go all out, but he still stopped himself from using Emperor-level magic. The king is shocked to learn he can use that magic, but Kane admits he still hasn't fully mastered it, so he sticks to beginner-level spells. He then asks permission to use Emperor-level magic, but he's quickly denied. The king then asks him where he took his exams since neither Silk nor Tellus saw him, which confuses Kane. He then explains his routing, only to learn that he took the South Gate, which was for the commoners, and all the nobles were supposed to enter from the North Gate. Eric then reveals that the conductor informed him about a commoner who got a perfect score in the written exam, destroyed the training grounds, and went toe-to-toe with an A-rank adventurer. Eric started laughing because he immediately knew it was Kane, and he also knew that advisor Manga would be quite annoyed to do the repairs. At present, Manga pulls up the repair bill, and the king scolds Kane for going overboard, so he apologizes on the spot. He then heads to the academy to see the test results and runs into Silk, who congratulates him for scoring the highest. She also knows what Kane did during the exams and says Tellus was quite angry, as she didn't get to see him on exam day. Afterward, he sees Rein guiding students to the hall, but when he says hi, she jumps into his arms as she hasn't seen him in a while. She then informs him that he'll be giving a speech since he scored the highest, and Kane gets worried because he has no social skills like you guys. That evening, he returns home, and Sylvia immediately pounces on him, asking if he passed. Kane tells him he topped the class, and this makes her tear up with joy. The next day, he attends the opening ceremony, and both Tellus and Silk sit next to him, which makes the other boys jealous. With that, Kane gives his speech, after which the king himself joins him on the mic and gives a vague speech, warning the others about Kane, who's not only overpowered but also an idiot, which makes Tellus and Silk laugh. Later in class, their homeroom instructor introduces herself as Elka and asks the students to pick their courses carefully. Kane wants to pick the adventurer course, but Silk and Tellus stop him, reminding him that he's now a noble and needs to know all things about nobility. Silk tells him that he can pick multiple courses, so he goes for nobility, adventuring, and magic. He then asks Tellus what she will pick, and she gets all shy as she tells him she'll pick internal affairs so she can manage his domain after he marries her. At this, Silk says she will study commerce so she can help him in the future too, and they both look forward to getting cracked by him. After class, Kane spots the fatso habit and his lackeys bullying Parma, telling her to go back to her workshop. Kane steps up to stop the bullying, and when Habit sees him, he immediately panics because he knows Kane is a baron. Another bully asks Kane why he's siding with a commoner, and Kane tells him everyone is equal in this school, and on top of that, Parma happens to be his friend. Hearing this, Habit threatens to ruin Parma's family by involving his father, but Silk hears this and dares him to try anything funny, which shocks him. Tellus also joins and asks them who they're threatening, prompting them to drop on all fours and apologize. However, Tellus says she will tell her father if they don't apologize to Parma, so they turn to her and beg for forgiveness before running off. Afterward, Parma thanks Kane for helping her, but the girls tell him to sit on his heels because they want to ask Parma a few questions. While the girls are talking, Kane hears a voice in his head, and the man behind it asks him to come to the library. Once he heads there, he teleports to a mansion where he finds a man pouring coffee, and he's shocked because this world doesn't have coffee. The man says he's been waiting for him and addresses him with his old name Kazuya. He then tells Kane to relax because the gods told him about his reincarnation, before introducing himself as Yuya, the first king. Kane is mind blown at this point, and he asks Yuya how he's alive after 300 years. Yuya tells him to use his appraisal skill, and Kane learns that Yuya has the title of God of Creation, meaning that he's the one who created this kingdom. He then adds that the gods have asked him to train him, but Kane believes he's already too strong. At this, Yuya challenges him to steal a cookie from his hand, but even before Kane can blink, Yuya holds a sword to his throat and proves that he has a lot to learn. Kane asks him why he needs to be stronger, and Yuya says it's because he has to fight someone. His opponent is the evil god Eren, someone who made everyone fight to the death 3 centuries ago by injecting ideas into their subconscious. Yuya and his friends managed to seal him back then, but his seal is getting weaker every day, and Eren will roam free if nothing is done about it. Kane asks Yuya just to seal Eren again, but Yuya says he's not among the gods, and that he's not allowed to interfere in worldly matters. Yuya leaves the task to Kane, vaguely telling him that his previous life will come to play here too. When Kane asks how, he grabs his hand and teleports him to a different world, promising to tell him more if he becomes strong enough to steal the cookie from him. He also gives Kane a compass and tells him to follow its direction to reach the mansion, adding that he will need to reach at least level 600 to stand a chance against Eren. Kane is shocked at this because he's only level 300 right now, but Yuya tells him not to worry about time because 1 year here is equal to 1 day in his own world. With that, Yuya leaves him alone, and Kane locks the frick in, rushing into the forest where he faces monsters he's never seen before. In the meantime, Silk and Tellus visit his mansion to check up on him, only for Sylvia to reveal that he hasn't been home for a whole day. She starts to worry that something bad might have happened to Kane, but Tellus is confident no one can harm him, and decides to wait for his return. Hours later, Kane is still in the forest, but several months have passed for him, and he hasn't been able to sleep for a minute. Even though he has lost all sense of purpose, he pushes forward and spots an injured white Fenrir who's on the verge of death. He decides to put it out of his misery, but suddenly, he remembers how he died once and chooses to save Fenrir. He tries casting a healing spell but fails because most of his mana has been drained. Despite this, he tries again and forces it out of him, only to collapse and lose consciousness. While he's out, the Fenrir protects him with his life, and once he's finally up, he realizes that he's all alone, just like the Fenrir. He asks Fenrir if he would like to team up with him, and when he agrees, the two travel together and form an unbreakable bond. After a long time, Kane finally returns to the mansion, but he and his Fenrir Haku are all grown up now. Yuya welcomes him and casually says he's been out for 4 years before noticing Haku by his side. He tells Kane that Haku is a legendary beast, and he should form a contract with him so he can summon him at will. Yuya then introduces Kane to his next teacher, Tutoring, who tells him that he's weaker than Sakura and knocks him out during training. The next day, Kane wakes up in an unfamiliar place and heads downstairs to find himself in Darian's house. There, his wife Ruri welcomes Kane, and he spots a baby dragon, which mesmerizes him. He asks the dragon to be his friend, but Haku gets jealous and starts growling at the dragon. Ruri dissolves the fight and offers them food, and Kane is brought to tears because he hasn't eaten a homemade meal in 4 years. Meanwhile, in the other world, it has been 4 days, and the girls have started to become anxious. As time passes, Kane continues his training with Darian, but he keeps getting his cakes baked by the steroid junkie. Amid his training, he recalls Yuya telling him that Eren used to be the god of amusement in the old world, and there are no games in that world because Eren's been sealed. Turns out, Bro got so bored that he hosted his own Fortnite battle royal of innocent people, and he was banished for that reason. If he were to return, the game would resume, and a lot of lives would be lost. Kane wanted to stop this at all costs, so Yuya told him to become stronger so he could protect his loved ones. He then told Kane that he was unable to protect his friends, who were Kane's parents. Back then, Yuya was summoned alongside Kane's parents to stop Eren's rampage, and during the final battle, his mom and dad sacrificed their own lives so Yuya could seal Eren. Recalling all this hypes Kane up, and finally, he is able to defeat Darain in a duel. With his training over, Kane rushes back to the mansion, where he finds Yuya paying respect to his parents' graves. After mourning them, Kane says he's ready to return to his world, so Yuya uses a spell to reverse his age. He then tells Kane to take Haku with him, and Darain also shows up, offering his pet dragon Jin to Kane. After thanking both of them, Kane returns to his own world, right as Yuya gives him his sword and a letter as a gift to the king. As he returns to his mansion, Sylvia spots him and immediately pulls him into a hug. Silk and Tellus also join and tell him they've been waiting for him for several days. They reveal they've learned to bake cookies for him in his absence, and Kane tears up as he chugs dozens of cookies down his throat. After that, he takes the letter to the king, informing him that Yuya has created his own world and is living there as the god of creation. When the others seem skeptical, he pulls out Yuya's sword from his item box, and this confirms that he indeed met the first king. The letter also says that Yuya trained Kane, and Kane confirms this, explaining how he got his cakes baked every single day for 5 years. The king immediately grew skeptical of his story because, for them, he was only away for 5 days. Eric diverts the king's attention by reminding Kane that there is a notice from the Adventurers Guild, and he needs to accept a quest to advance to A rank, or his guild card will be cancelled. Immediately, Kane heads to the guild and apologizes to Eden for delaying the quest. Eden already knows he was staying somewhere else, and Tefana has been feeling really lonely without him. Kane ignores this and instead asks him if his membership is cancelled, but Eden tells him he still has a short amount of time to complete his A-rank quest. Kane agrees to accept the quest immediately, so Eden tells him he needs to subjugate some bandits. He then hands him a paper detailing the bandit route, motivating Kane to wrap this quick given that he's the strongest person in the entire kingdom. Soon after, he teleports to the forest and spots a large group of bandits in a face-off against 2 adventurers, who are protecting a carriage. When he lands, he realizes that adventurers are actually his teachers, Nina and Millie. Noticing that Millie is hurt, he immediately casts heal on her, and after this, Millie confidently says that the playground is now even. The bandits laugh at this, believing that a brat can't do much damage to them, but Kane promises to beat their bums like drums for hurting his teacher. As the bandits rush him down, he drops them one after the other until all of them are at his feet. Afterward, the girls ask him why he's here, and he says he has come to complete a subjugation quest from the guild. The girls are shocked because he has just joined the guild, and such quests are only for those with C ranks or higher. At this, Kane shows them his A-ranked card, casually saying that some things happened and he skipped a few ranks, much to their shock. The carriage owner then asks him what he's going to do with the bandits, and Kane tells him not to worry about it. He then drags the bandits back to the city so everyone can see them, and they feel humiliated. Afterward, he escorts the carriage owner back to his house, and the man turns out to be Parma's father. She asks him about the bandits, and the man tells her that Cain saved them from getting cooked. Cain casually says these bandits happen to be the ones he needed for the quest, and Parma praises him for being a hard-working baron even on weekends. Millie is shocked to hear that he's already become a baron and asks if he'd like for them to address her formally, but he tells her to treat him like normal. After that, he decides to scram, saying he has to report to the guild, but Millie and Nina chase after him because they also need to report to the guild. There, he hands over the proof of quest completion to Rita, only to see an ugly ruffian trying to get freaky with Millie and Nina. They tell him to scram and walk away, but when he tries to stop them, Cain grabs his hand and tells him to leave the girls alone. The goons immediately remember him as the boy who beat them up years ago, and when Claude and Lina arrive as well, they choose to run away. Cain tells him those goons were bothering his friends, and Claude looks behind him to see Millie, so he reveals that she's his younger sister. Millie reveals she and Nina tutored Cain when he was in diapers, so Claude suggests they get drinks on this joyous occasion. While they talk, Claude learns that Cain is now an A rank, but he saw it coming since Cain kept up with him during his exam, much to Millie's shock. Nina says he's not an ordinary boy, as he's already a baron, which shocks Claude and Lina because they've been very casual with him. The girls then show the magic bags he gifted to them years ago, and Lina gets super invested in them. When she learns that they can hold a mansion, she declares them national treasures and asks Cain to make one for her too. She then passes out in his arms, and Claude watches like a cuck, telling him that Lina can't control her liquor. Suddenly, Cain recalls that he has school tomorrow. When Claude says he doesn't need it, he insists that there's a lot he needs to learn. Hearing this, Nina offers to hug him for being a good boy, but he runs off like a virgin. Just then, Rita shows up and says that an adventuring class instructor is injured and they need a replacement, which piques Claude's curiosity. The following day at school, Cain is excited to continue training, but the teacher tells him he's forbidden from using any magic because he's too overpowered. Claude and the others watch from afar, so they decide to make his day better by attending his next class as instructors. There, Claude asks all students to whip out their guild cards, but Cain says he forgot his at home because showing his golden card will isolate him further. In the training class, Cain tries to duel with Claude, but he ignores him, making him feel left out, but it's all part of their plan to help him. As everyone gets their turn with Claude, Cain patiently waits in line, but when it's his turn, the class time runs out, and he doesn't get to show his skills. That night, Cain is so pissed that he goes into the forest and wipes out S-ranked monsters for fun while cursing Claude at the same time. As he causes chaos, the town's guard assumes that the Prince of Darkness has returned and raises the alarms. Garm immediately mobilizes his knights and reaches the forest, only to see a giant crater and Cain's handkerchief with their family crest on it. The next day, Cain is summoned by the king, who also believes the Prince of Darkness has returned, and they must inform the neighboring nations about it. At this, Cain breaks down and finally admits that he was the one who caused all that chaos. Elsewhere in a cave, another segment of Aaron's seal breaks, and he gets eager to resume his Fortnite battle royale. The next day in school, the class is being taught summoning magic, but since Cain is overqualified, a special instructor from the palace has come to teach him. The guy introduces himself as Grat, before telling the class that they must form a contract with it first, and then produce a magic circle to summon a familiar. He then gives the students some summoning cards, allowing them to summon some low-level familiars. However, when he gives one to Cain, the boy worries he'll mess up like last time. Grat assures him that nothing bad will happen, and he should put all of his magic into the card, and Cain decides to trust Grat's word. However, as he activates his magic, the circle glows extremely bright, and he ends up summoning the Prince of Darkness, much to his own shock. The princess asks why a mere human has summoned him, but Cain panics and flashbangs everyone. He then wonders if the prince is on Aaron's side, right as the prince appraises his stats and walks towards him menacingly. Cain quickly swings his sword to defend himself, but the prince gets on his knees and begs him to accept him, promising to follow every command Cain gives him. He even offers to level this entire nation and bring forth the demon clan, but Cain quickly tells him that he doesn't want to do any of those things. The prince then introduces himself as Seth, telling Cain that he'll be able to summon him if they form a contract. Cain agrees to it just to make him leave, and Seth forms the contract right before disappearing. After the dust settles, Grat asks Cain what happened, and Cain says the Prince of Darkness left because he refused to form a contract. Grat buys his story and decides to end the class, and Cain is relieved that he got away with it. However, Grat immediately informs the king, and Cain is summoned to the palace to explain himself. The king asks him who he summoned during class, and Cain reluctantly admits he summoned the Prince of Darkness, which makes the king wet himself. Cain also admits to forming a contract with Seth, which shocks the king even more because a small mistake in Seth would have destroyed their entire nation in seconds. Cain apologizes for the mistake, anxiously explaining that he had no idea he would summon the prince. Even Grat is shocked, and he explains that Cain must have a huge supply of magic for him to summon someone so strong. At this, the king suspects that Yuya's harsh training must have made Cain even stronger, so he asks Cain to pull up his stat screen. He also tells Grat to keep it a secret, or his nuts will be roasted on a grill. With that, Cain opens the stat screen and shocks everyone by revealing that he has now become a demigod. Everyone wonders if they should bow to Cain now, but Cain pleads with them to treat him like they have always treated him. The king agrees to it, but he also adds that Cain is allowed to take the throne anytime he wants. He once again reminds Grat not to spill this secret, before telling Cain that he's now promoted to a viscount and he will have his own town. He also tells Cain to show him how he can handle the government in that town, and if he does well, his engagement with Tellus will be made public. Later, Cain returns to his mansion and tells Sylvia about his promotion, and she decides to throw an in-house party. However, Colin arrives with bad news that a monster onslaught has been observed in the forest of monsters. Immediately, he rushes home to meet his older brother, Jin, who reveals that the number of monsters has increased drastically in the forest. He reminds Cain of how 10 years ago, monsters went wild and attacked the city, and it seems as if that will happen again. Hearing this, Cain says he'll go into the forest and see what's up, but Jin gets worried because he doesn't know Cain is the main character. At this, Cain pulls out his A-ranked guild card, and this puts Jin at ease. Cain then says he will visit the guild first to gather information, but once he gets there, the new receptionist treats him like he's a Trump supporter. However, Rudy quickly returns and apologizes for the rookie's mistake before showing him the state of the adventurers. Just then, Millie and Nina enter the guild, and when Cain asks them why they are here, he learns that the guild has put out a call to all high-ranking adventurers. The girls also confirm that the monster activity in the forest is indeed very high, and Cain declares he will go right away. Millie says it's dangerous and they should wait for Claude, and even Rudy asks him to take someone with him. At this, Cain tells him he's got company, and once he enters the forest, he summons Haku and Jin for support. As they go deeper, they face several strong monsters, but Cain feels as if something much stronger is watching them. Since he can't figure it out on his own, he summons Seth and asks for his help. Immediately, Seth senses a strong presence surrounded by hundreds of monsters, which he deems an anomaly. He then summons his butler Dalmatia, who was once one of the 4 heavenly kings and specializes in investigation. When Dalmatia uses his powers, he exposes many hidden monsters in the forest, and Cain wastes no time slicing them up. He then tells Seth to take care of the forest before teleporting back to the guild and presenting the monsters he slayed. Claude and Lena arrive just then, and they are shocked to see that all the monsters are S-class. Meanwhile, Seth decides to go deeper into the forest to the source of the strange presence, but Aaron sees him coming and sends thousands of S-ranked monsters towards the city. Seeing this, Seth teleports to the city and informs Cain about the onslaught, so Cain asks Claude to gather adventurers and protect the citizens. Rudy asks him what he will do, and he says he will go into the forest, which makes her worry. However, Cain tells her he has a friend who is also overpowered, and being addressed as Cain's friend makes Seth even more loyal to him. Just then, Tefana shows up and wishes to go with Cain, but Cain orders her to protect the city instead, and she happily agrees to it. With that, Cain and Seth head to the forest, where Dalmatia is already cooking a few S-ranked monsters. After clearing a path, the 3 of them finally close in on the source, where Aaron is waiting for their arrival. Seth then tells Cain that he should go ahead while they hold the fort, so Cain leaves the forest in their care. Meanwhile, the city has gone into panic, but the adventurers quickly take posts at the gate to prevent the monsters from coming inside the walls. However, Millie decides to go after Cain because she's worried for him, so Nina, Claude, and Lena join her too. Back in the forest, Seth summons all 4 of the heavenly kings and informs them that a friend has requested their help. The kings are shocked at this because Seth doesn't do friends, but when Dalmatia tells them that this friend also formed a contract with Seth, their shock is beyond measure. Seth promises to explain everything later because right now, they need to protect the forest. Meanwhile, Cain arrives at the core and uses a strong fire spell to clear out the area. He's suddenly attacked by Aaron's spell, but he quickly counters it with his own spell. After the dust settles, Cain finally sees Aaron in his black dragon form, and Aaron tells him that only a small part of him has broken free. Aaron then spawns thousands of monsters and sends them all towards the city, declaring that this is a game to see if humans can outlast the monsters. At this time, Claude and the others arrive in the forest and see the Heavenly Kings fighting off against the horde of monsters. As they conclude that these guys are Kane's friends, Nina senses a group of monsters coming their way, and Chloe teams with Millie to take them down. Lena and Nina provide support with their spells, and they are all motivated to have drinks with Kane after this is over. However, the monsters keep coming, and Nina runs out of magic, which allows the monsters to pin Claude down. Just as all hope seems lost, Tefana joins them with reinforcements and thanks them for holding the fort all by themselves. She reveals that the city is safe, and she will now hold the front line, and Claude joins them as his sword is itching for some monster meat. Meanwhile, Aaron looks at Kane and says he's got the same eyes as the couple who sealed him, and just like he sent them to God, he plans to do the same with Kane. Kane dodges his first attack and counters with his own spell, but it proves futile against Aaron, who's still only using a small portion of his true powers. He then starts to overwhelm Kane, who summons Haku and Jin to support him, only for Aaron to discard Haku like trash. He then tries to send Haku to God, but Jin jumps in and takes the hit. Aaron doesn't stop and continues to fire at them, so Kane steps in and blocks the attacks to protect his familiars. When Aaron mocks him for this, Kane tells him to shut his air hole, as protecting his loved ones is what gives him power. He then casts a spell that produces a divine light, which is so bright it can be seen from within the city. As Kane continues to cast the spell on Aaron, his familiars suddenly stop him, and he looks up to see that he's pretty much destroyed the entire forest along with Aaron. Just then, Seth and Dalmatia join him and reveal that the onslaught is over, which means everyone is now safe. Hearing this, Kane quickly returns to the forest, where he is greeted by the bright smiles of his friends, which make him really happy. Afterward, the king asks Kane if he was responsible for that bright light, informing him that the townfolks think a god came down to protect them. Kane tells him he had to resort to an emperor-level spell because Aaron was too strong, and the king panics because he forbade Kane from using those spells. Despite this, he decides to grant Kane his own domain to thank him for protecting the city, and soon after, he gets an official audience with the king, who makes him in charge of the Dorenthal region. Later, when Tefana learns of this, she begins to cry because Dorenthal is a faraway region, and no one has been able to govern it so far, making Kane realize the king basically shipped him off. Tellus decides to do something about it, but Kane asks her not to, as he is excited to see what he can do in this new town. Soon after, he arrives in Dorenthal and is immediately ambushed by some thugs, so he beats them up in an arena and ends up destroying the whole place. After that, he heads to the tavern where he sees some drunkards being mean to a waitress, so he beats them up and gets arrested. After a while, he returns to the capital, and while he's having tea with Tellus and Silk, Seth comes begging to him for help, saying that his wife has kicked him out for cheating on her. Soon after, his wife Lafon also appears, and Kane actually takes Lafon's side, so she takes Seth back and promises to crack his coconuts. The gods watch all of this from above, and they agree to let him enjoy it for now, because he has a big challenge waiting ahead. That's it for this video. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and comment which anime you want us to cover next. If you want to see more, watch this video on screen.